If we look on pitch, with the uncertainty over ownership at this current moment in time, what does it mean for the players' futures, given that June 30th deadline we know with FFP and PSR? And are any sales inevitable, do you think, from the club?
Yeah, I've always felt they are going to be inevitable at some stage. I think they are going to have to balance the books. Now, what they are, there's been some very bullish noises coming out from the club saying, no, we're not in a problem. We don't have to sell. But then again, you would say that, wouldn't you? And that's the sort of case of any negotiation. I do think they're going to have to sell to sort of resolve the PSR issue once and for all. Who it's going to be, well, that's what the $64 million question is. It's certainly gone quiet around Dominic Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle. Branthwaite's moved, nothing there really of any. There's nobody really that's really coming up in terms of being an active transaction. But there's no doubt there'll be a lot of discussions behind the scenes. But I do think there will be some movement. The speculation has really been about more incoming than outgoing, which is surprising. And there have been some interesting names mentioned. And I do think that Thelwell, the sporting director, and Sean Dyche are getting together. And I think, next season is already starting to look quite promising. But we'll see who the ones out the door are going to be. And then we'll have to see if the squad can remain balanced. And I think they will manage to do a good job on that in the end.
Are there any names, Keith, that you can mention that you think would be an exciting proposition or attraction to the club potentially that could be incoming?
There's nobody I really want to mention just now because, again, that hinges so much on the ones that are going to go out. And often if they, it's a game of chess again, that if you move on the ones that you're going to buy incoming, then you've already signaled which positions you're going to be selling. So it's going to be a bit of a game of chess as we go forward. But there certainly have been a few, and I'd hope that by next week I'll give you some names as to who I think are going to be coming in as well as out.
And Keith, from Sean Dyche's perspective, I know we discussed lots about his future and where he will stand amid all the chaos really going on. Do you think that he will stay? Do you expect him to stay past this season that's just finished, going into the following, and actually sort of be the steering ship in all of this chaos at Everton to try and keep them up next season and then progress forwards?
Yeah, I think he will be. I think the present creditors, as well as Mashiri, should be thanking him greatly for what he's done this season. And I think they should be making absolutely sure that he's going to stay for this next season. It would be a huge blow, and that would be the biggest blow, I think, if Sean Dyche was to go for next season. I don't think he will. I don't think there's any real desire there to do that. I think he's quite happy with where they are. If you remember, apart from the points deductions, he would have had 48 points, which would have been a very respectable total compared to last season. So I think that's a great position for Sean to be in, and I think he'll stay.
And I mean, it said, Keith, the club are in talks with James Garner over a new potential deal as well. How important is it the club tie down stars during this sort of time of transition when they're waiting for a new owner?
Absolutely crucial. This has got to be stability. I'm a big preacher of stability, and the more of this squad they can keep, the better. And I think that will be a key thing. They've obviously shown they can bond together, and I think that is the biggest thing for this one last push in the Premier League at Goodison. They've got to do that. We're not saying that everything's going to be solved and there's going to be some magic dust from the new stadium, but certainly the budgets are going to be helped. And so there will be, the cavalry could be coming at some stage. But at the moment, keep this squad together as best you can, add one or two for the ones that have to go out, and then move on and do it again for next year.
And do you think, Keith, actually that the Euros, Copa America, some of those competitions internationally this summer, is that actually a bit of a blessing in disguise for Everton? Because that means that the players aren't worrying about their futures necessarily at the club. They have to go and focus on international football. Do you think that's a bonus for some of the players potentially in the squads?
Yeah, I think the one in particular, Onana, I think has a chance to shine for Belgium. He was man of the match against England in many people's books. I think he could well shine at the Euros, which I think would really help his valuation. So I would hope that that could be the case. But yes, I think obviously the Euros will distract. Certainly in the media, the silly season at this time of year, we'll have the Euros to fill those pages rather than just endless speculation about transfer dealings. So I think Everton are going to be sliding by through June and July.
Mm. And going into next season, Keith, with all of the stuff going on off the field with 777 potentially, do you want someone like MSP to step in as a stopgap and fill that void to ensure that some of those players are tied down to new contracts? Or actually, do you think that Mashiri, I mean, yeah, where do you think Mashiri stands within all of that as well?
Well, it's it's a difficult one as to who's really calling the shots now. Certainly, I think that on a day-to-day basis, we're seeing Sean Dyche and Kevin Thelwell become very important in the structure of things. Colin Chong, who's the interim chief executive, has done a good job at trying to stabilize the ship, but we should never forget he is basically the stadium project manager, and he's going to be very busy as that project comes towards a close, and a very frantic period of time on the stadium in terms of the fit out, and a huge amount of work being done there to get it finished. We've seen problems around things like the Co-op Live, facility in Manchester, the concert stadium, and when that wasn't finished on time, we saw the ramifications. So I'm sure Colin will have his hands full. So it's going to take somebody to really keep hands on, and there's been no sign of Mashiri really being able to do that. He's made some, very, very poor decisions on the football side with a number of managers, etc., over the years. So the fans and certainly myself have got no faith in him being able to run the club properly. So it's almost on autopilot at the moment, and we'll see how that goes forward. But there needs to be, I think, another figurehead brought into the club, certainly on the executive level, to be seen as actually having hands-on and experience to do that.